they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your Daily Vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so let's get ready to jump right into it. We're going to be watching an Epstein's death expose. Okay, we're going to get into it, and then we're going to talk about some other interesting things. All right, so hello, Terry Hinton, Yvette, We the People, Queen of the King. Okay. I don't have on my glasses, as you can see. Trisha. All right. So let's get into it. Adwoel. Starseed Oracle is here. I rock. All right. William. Lillian X. Okay. BJ Holly. So shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. I see you just anticipate Nubia Ra, Emperor Rex. Okay. And so before we get started, and shout out to all of my moderators because y'all know they be putting in work. And so before we get into it, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes. And everybody hit the like button. Double check to make sure you're still subscribed because Nefarious ScrewTube has unsubscribed at least 4 people from just this morning. Okay? Please pay attention. Here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes Hair Oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And also, don't forget she sells beard oil. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. First things first, we're going to go to this video that a TikToker did. Well, she seems to have found someone that's possibly related to Epstein by the name of Leslie Epstein, and this is a book that they wrote. So anyway, we're going to listen to the TikTok, and then I went on Amazon so we could hear a sample of the audio of the book. Okay, so let's get into it.
Goodroad made this video about this physical. This is really weird. 2 days ago, a TikTok user named Dustin Goodroad made this video about this physical book that he had found called King of the Jews, a novel of the Holocaust by Leslie Epstein. The original TikToker is pointing at the striking coincidence that a book named King of the Jews was written by Epstein about a protagonist named I.C. Trumpelman. This book.
Now let me just stop right there. Okay, say what? Did y'all hear that? A book written by someone. Roger said Queen Roger said Queen Pak Shakur got bars and flow. Not Queen Pak. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. So listen, did y'all hear what she said? Somebody named Leslie Epstein, and Leslie is a man, okay? Leslie Epstein wrote a book called King of the Jews about a person named Trumpelston. Now, remember, I told you all last year, and I've told you all since, that Trump deemed himself the king of the Jews, okay? King of Israel. All right, it was prophesied in 2015. Okay, do y'all hear this? So I find it all interesting. But let's not forget those other books that I showed you all too from the 1800s that talked about Baron Trump, okay, Trump Castle and all that stuff, a place on Mars where the leader was called Elon. Y'all remember all of that? This stuff is real weird. Okay, you can't tell me that timeline jumping isn't real. Okay, I absolutely believe it is. So we're going to talk about that this week. Let's continue.
Set during the Holocaust is about a con man who pretends to be a doctor, leaves the ghetto, and then returns to lead it. This is Leslie Epstein, the author of that book. He was summa cum laude at Yale and a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. From 1978, he taught a graduate creative writing class at Boston University. Some of his students went on to win Pulitzer Prizes. Epstein is one of the oldest Ashkenazi Jewish surnames. It derives from the small German town of Epstein in Hesse. These two men are identical. There is no denying that chin. Ashkenazi Jews emigrating to the United States used something called a Landsmannschaften, which was basically a mutual aid society, and they were organized by the town of origin. So if you were an Epstein, from Epstein, you would join the Epstein Landmannschaft in New York. These societies provided loans, burial plots, jobs, and housing. It was a trust network. You showed up with the right name from the right town, and doors opened for you. No credentials required. The community vouched for its own. Leslie Epstein's father was Philip Epstein, and he had a twin named Julius. And these two men were screenwriters in early Hollywood. That's Howard Koch. The Epstein twins wrote Casablanca. This is one of the most effective pieces of wartime propaganda ever made. It's a film about a man who runs a nightclub, and the club is a hub where intelligence operatives, refugees fleeing war, and resistance fighters meet and mix. The owner, Rick, has access to everyone. He's apparently neutral. And maintaining that position of nightclub neutrality is what gives him power over all sides. Epstein ran properties. He had his New York townhouse, his Zorro Ranch, and his Little James Island. These properties functioned as hubs where intelligence operatives, scientists, politicians, academics, and compromised individuals could all mix together. He's been seen with everyone from the Queen of England to Mother Teresa to the Prime Minister of Israel to US presidents. And in those circles, he maintained a position of apparent neutrality. Rick's Cafe describes the Epstein operation in 1942. Put these men beside each other and you tell me, do you see a family resemblance here? Let me tell you about the weird timeline. Shortly before the war, the United States government created the House of Un-American Activities Committee. This committee was established to investigate alleged disloyalty and subversive activities, including communist ties among private citizens. It became infamous for its investigations into Hollywood. The options facing anyone named by HUAC were brutal. In 1951, one of the committee's first witnesses, the actor Larry Parks, pleaded, "Don't present me with the choice of either being in contempt of this committee and going to jail, or forcing me to really crawl through the mud and be an informer." If you watched my video last week about a knock, I explained that it is an intelligence acronym that stands for non-official cover. Official cover are those who hold diplomatic passports. If they accidentally get arrested, they have diplomatic immunity. But a knock, a non-official, that's deep cover. They can never admit their connections to the agency. If they get arrested, if they get caught, they have to go to jail. After being
Now, I want you all to pay attention to that. She said they can never blow their cover. If they get caught, they have to just go to jail. They can't give up their, their secrecy about them belonging to the agency. Now, why is that important? Well, because if you remember when I was reporting on Epstein and Les Wexner and Alan Dershowitz, okay, in the Epstein files, Dershowitz, who was Epstein's attorney, made a comment that if Epstein had told him, I believe it was Dershowitz, he said that if Epstein had just told him that he was Mossad, then he could have kept him out of jail. Do you all remember that? It was in the Epstein files. He said if he had just told him, and I do believe it was Dershowitz that said that, Dershowitz was definitely one of Epstein's attorneys. So that's why I definitely think it was him that said it. But basically said if he had told him that he was Mossad, he could have kept him out of jail. So I was thinking, why wouldn't he have told him? But clearly this is probably why. Okay, so let's continue.
called in front of this committee, Parks was blacklisted completely. He could not work in Hollywood again. In 1952, Jack Warner, one of the original Warner brothers, gave Philip Epstein's name to the HUAC. His explanation was, those boys are always on the side of the underdog, but that glosses over the fact that the people he named were all people he was in contractual disputes with. Less than a month after being asked to testify at this House committee, Philip Epstein dies randomly, and there's very little information about what happened. Some unverified online sources say that he got sick or that he got cancer, but no one ever checked the death cert. Somebody in California could go today and pay the $30 and get the death cert, and we could find out what it says. Given the hugeness of the Epstein case, it's amazing that nobody's done that. Possibly because they haven't yet connected these jawlines to each other. But I think we should find out what happened to Philip Epstein, because that's in 1952, right? Flip over to the East Coast, and a man who zero photographs exist of, named Seymour Epstein, marries a woman named Paula. Less than a couple of months after Philip Epstein dies, Seymour Epstein gets married in New York. Seymour Epstein is a person that did exist, and in 1941, they joined the army. Then there is an 11-year gap in any kind of public records to say that this person existed. He does not show back up on any records from 1941 to 1952 on the marriage certificate. That is a very odd anomaly. Paper tripping is a documented intelligence technique where a dead person's identity is repurposed for an undercover officer. The fact that Seymour Epstein went into the United States Army in 1941, just before the war, and is not seen on paper again until 1952 when he marries Paula, might suggest a repurposed identity. Do you think that these two men look like brothers with this as the father, or am I just being a conspiracy theorist? Let's go back to Casablanca for a second. During the filming of this movie, the OSS was physically in Casablanca. The OSS is the Office of Strategic Services. This was the wartime precursor to the CIA. If you've been keeping up on Epstein lore, you'll know he got his job in the Dalton School from Donald Barr. Donald Barr was an OSS officer. Warner Brothers is believed to have rushed the premiere of Casablanca to align with headlines on Operation Torch, a real war exercise. Then the general release of this film was timed for January 1943, and it just happened to coincide with the Casablanca conference where Roosevelt and Churchill met in Casablanca to plan the next phase of the war. This movie was not a representation of war. It was the war, literally. The extras in the famous La Marseillaise scene, where the Café Patreons drown out the officers singing, were actual Jewish refugees. Many of them in this scene are crying real tears because they are singing their national anthem in exile. Let's go back to this weird book that started it all. I See Trumpelman, written in 1979 by an Epstein. Here is the character description, word for word, from the publisher. A man whose fancy determines the fate of others. Check.
Now, please pay attention because I promise you, everything she describes about the main character, the protagonist, is describing Donald Trump, and that character's name is Trumpleton. Okay, please pay attention. Let's continue.
Thrives on the power granted to him. Check. Creates an authoritarian regime of his own. Check. By turns a con man, charismatic leader, and merciless dictator. Check, check, check. The character's name is Trumpelman. The book is named King of the Jews. In August 2019, Trump quoted a conspiracy theorist who called him the King of Israel and said the Jewish people love him like he is the second coming of God. Is that a coincidence of language? Those are the exact phrases from this book. Donald Barr, the OSS officer who hired Epstein at Dalton, he also wrote a kind of weird book. His book is science fiction where a human diplomat becomes entangled with a feudal oligarchy that owns and sexually enslaves human captives. So the spy who gave Epstein his start, wrote a book about an aristocratic network that uses sexual slavery for political power. Tell me in the comments, what do you think the intelligence purpose of these?
Okay, so that's all crazy. Clearly not a coincidence because I don't believe in coincidences, okay? Did y'all hear that? Starcy said 1943, they known all along. It's definitely strange, okay? Not to mention those other books that I have shown you all, like I said. Okay, so I just find it all interesting. Hold on, beloveds. Then let me see how I can do this. Yeah, it is very crazy, right? So let's see if we can listen to a couple of minutes of this. Hold on, could you all hear that? Let me know if you all can hear it. Once in the chat, if you all can hear the audio. I can't tell if I can only hear it or you all can or not. Somebody let me know. You all couldn't hear it? Okay, well, with that all being said, It's not going to let me play it on here then. I mean, I can hear it, but it's opening up in another tab for some reason. So I can hear it, but you all can't. Okay, so don't worry. Maybe I'll try to go back to it later. But for now, let's go. Let's go to this death expose that they did on Epstein a couple of weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago. MS Now. Okay, so we're going to get into it. I'm going to share my screen. In the meantime, I'll try to figure out how I can play that audio for you all to hear. Okay, here we go. Lights up, everyone, please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance.
Death, they look at one, if the inmate took his life, or two, the possibility that somebody killed him. If an inmate's alone until they're found hanging, that means suicide. No one else was there to do it. The jail records video, though, in the area facing Epstein's cell, in the cell area, they had 2 jail cameras, both failed to record, so there was only one working camera near the cell. That drew headlines at the time. Government defenders, though, cited the remaining camera footage to conclude that they would say no one got near the cell anyway that night. A top Trump FBI official who rose by questioning the Epstein story even echoed that view on Trump's behalf last year.
You're going to see there's no one there but him. There is nothing. If you have it, I'm happy to see it. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Clear as day. A video showing that could resolve any questions, but the Trump official was wrong. Back with our Epstein death special report. We've been tracking all of the errors in the Trump DOJ's original handling of the case. And then the following administration probed those failures, but ultimately issued the same finding of suicide in a watchdog report from the Garland DOJ in 2023. That 100-page report reviewed the available video cameras footage to conclude the last time anyone came near Epstein's cell was a corrections officer at 10:41 p.m. That's the government conclusion from a detailed probe and report across 2 administrations. That's where the U.S. government would have its stay. But this new law famously forced out the secret internal documents from the same probe, showing other views within the FBI about the last person near Epstein's cell, hidden from the public until now. DOJ said the officer was the last time anyone entered the area. But the Epstein files have revealed a secret FBI log of the same video, which spotted a flash of orange going up the stairs. Inmates wear orange, not officers. The FBI stating a, quote, flash of orange looks to be going up the stairs. Could possibly be an inmate escorted up to Epstein's tier. Now, the FBI's own video review detected that prison orange uniform of a possible inmate. That's big. This review had the evidence, orange that could be an inmate. But we are now learning it was cut, hidden, or accidentally left out of the DOJ report. The new files reveal this never-before-seen set of details about Epstein's area on the night of his death. And we could show you the locked tier around Epstein's cell, 10:39 p.m. that night. A blurry orange figure appears. The original FBI log calls it that flash of orange could possibly be an inmate. And note that careful description, because then the DOJ review of the same footage changes it to write, quote, inmates are currently on lockdown. It's possible someone is carrying inmate linen up the stairs. Now, that's a huge difference. It replaces observation, orange, with conjecture. Inmates are on lockdown, so they shouldn't be around. But the rule that inmates are supposed to be on lockdown doesn't resolve whether one wasn't, just like Epstein was supposed to get those 30-minute checks, but didn't, that I told you about. Now, the DOJ's change prevents questions about that orange flash and if the jail made another mistake. And the public report by the DOJ hides this dispute over the orange flash. It states that an officer appears to walk up the stairway. CBS's Daniel Rudnick first documented this in a report. Who entered Epstein's jail tier the night of his death? Newly released video logs appear to contradict official accounts. And independent experts telling CBS the video is more consistent with someone wearing an orange prison uniform than a corrections officer. The fact is the DOJ's own watchdog report minimized the FBI evidence. That is just a fact. Now, people can debate why. Was that a good faith mistake or a malicious cover-up? Even videos suggesting an inmate on the loose does not resolve questions around Epstein's death, but it would be another rule violation, and it would add to the evidence suggesting you need a deeper investigation of potential foul play. That was the only camera angle working, shown here on this map. The DOJ report notes recording failures do predate this Epstein probe. There was a history there, and the only working camera that covers a common area outside the entrance to Epstein's general area is here. There isn't video from that better camera that pointed down Epstein's hallway. Now, back in our timeline, moments after Epstein was found dead, the new files for the first time allow us to see the area footage at the moment of that discovery. A figure moving from the desk in the upper left corner towards Epstein's tier and then returning quickly. We see increasing activity. The video adds to the picture of how jail staff responded. Doesn't look like it was an expected event, some giant conspiracy, at least for the officers on the scene. You can see it gets chaotic. They're moving around outside Epstein's tier. But the FBI then didn't arrive for 7 hours. And that's a problem because by then guards had removed Epstein's body. The cell was in disarray. The crime scene tainted under Trump DOJ authority. And the feds didn't fingerprint or DNA test materials in the cell, which is basic forensics to check if others were in the cell or touched items. The jail had control of the scene, but mismanaged the evidence. How bad was it? Well, officers found Epstein with a noose around his neck. But by the time they were done tainting the crime scene, the feds were never even able to establish which noose killed Epstein. There were several nooses fashioned from the clothing. Investigators said they did conclude one handmade noose you see here was not the one used. That's odd. The original account says a guard literally ripped the cloth away when they found Epstein hanging, then CPR. So the new files reveal the underlying evidence from this probe, and the government expected that stuff to stay secret. They never expected that we'd be on the news telling you about it. Like one guard recounting that he didn't recall taking the noose off. I really don't. We can also tell you that after the death, 2 officers were put on leave. Within a week, the medical examiner did state the cause of death was suicide by hanging, mentioning no evidence of defensive wounds that might be part of an attack. The examiner also reviewed footage and thought it was just too blurry to draw conclusions. The new files show they also delayed that ruling on suicide for more review.
Hold on, let me stop right here and say something. Okay, so notice how he said that the guards had already removed the body. Didn't he say that the guards had already removed the body? That's something that's not right about that, because here's the thing. Nobody is supposed to move the body except for the medical examiner, the coroner. Okay? Especially in cases where there is need for an investigation to be conducted. All right, so let me just go to my receipts because I pulled it up just so you all know. When a person dies in a jail or prison, the body is usually removed by a coroner, a medical examiner, or a contracted funeral director, because most deaths in custody are legally required to be investigated. The body is typically first transported to a government morgue for an autopsy before being released to the family. So why would the jail staff do that? And also then I typed in, so jail staff or guards don't remove them? Says correct. Jail staff and guards generally do not remove the body from the facility. Their primary responsibility is to secure the area and preserve it as a crime scene until outside authorities arrive. So why was that whole place looking like a mess? Why was there stuff just strewn everywhere? Why was the body gone? They said the guards moved it. Who told them to move it? And let's not forget the message that from 4chan that was in the Epstein files that says that one of the people working there at the jail says that the person, or they heard that Jeffrey Epstein was supposed to be taken to triage, and then one of the nurses said they didn't hear anything about that. They didn't know anything about it. Okay, and he actually was taken up out of there. Okay, so please pay attention. This all sounds real sketchy. Okay, because I knew that didn't sound right. Because, okay, let's not forget, okay, I teach criminal justice and I went to school for criminal justice. One of the things that we knew that we learned about and actually did like different scenarios about was how to preserve and to examine a crime scene. Okay, you're not supposed to be picking up dead bodies and taking them up out of there. You could be destroying evidence, contaminating evidence, missing evidence, and anything. So they were supposed to just secure the perimeter until outside people came in, specifically the coroner. Okay, so I just want you all to pay attention because this is already going wrong. But let's continue.
Because of Epstein's status. A forensic pathologist hired by Epstein's brother, Dr. Baden, also looked over the autopsy and had a different conclusion, determining injuries on Epstein's neck were closer to, quote, strangulation than suicide. Now, Baden once served as chief medical.
The famous Marty Marr says maybe some jails do things differently. Well, of course they do things differently if they're breaking the rules. I am telling you what the rules and procedures are. That's at all jails. There's no one, you know what I'm saying, one here and one there. They all have that rule. That's just how it's supposed to be done. That's how it's supposed to be done, period, in the United States. When there's a dead body, nobody's supposed to be moving it. The coroner comes. Okay? That's how that goes. But let's continue.
Examiner in New York. Months later, as we go to the timeline, the DOJ indicted the guards on duty that night for lying about the inmate checks that never happened. That's a big deal. It added pressure, though, for those guards to cooperate in the probe, and the DOJ later dropped those same charges. We are learning the FBI heard from an inmate who said that officers were heard discussing covering up Epstein's death in some manner. That was reported just this week.
Covering up his death in some manner. Do y'all hear that? Okay, Aquarius MC says, yes, you're absolutely right, Queen. I work for corrections. Okay, thank you, beloved. That's just the rules.
By the Miami Herald's Julie K. Brown. There was heat on the Trump DOJ over what you can now see was a debacle that looked even worse over time. And in the middle of the probe, Trump Attorney General Barr made an unusual announcement that he said he watched the jail footage. He ruled out anyone entering the cell or foul play. This was days after the guards were first indicted. Barr giving his case, but there were so many failures he didn't deny them, including, of course, the video recording. He just said the jail had a, quote, perfect storm of screw-ups. Years later, the DOJ report documents those failures, but avoided any mention of the crucial conflicting evidence I just showed you tonight, the flash of orange, whether a person or even an inmate was on the loose near Epstein's cell area. Now, it can be reasonable to make an investigative finding that it's unlikely anyone still entered Epstein's locked cell that night. Or you could state that the total evidence just doesn't suggest it. But Trump officials who oversaw these problems in 2019 and the Biden-Garland DOJ later issuing the report, okay, they went farther. They basically stretched to try to tamp down the growing public concerns. We've heard about a cover-up being sometimes worse than the original incident. Well, ironically, that kind of strained overreach can feed questions about government secrecy, cover-ups, or even foul play. The CBS investigation noted the jail camera angle means it's just not possible to rule out if someone could have climbed the stairs and entered that tier. And this new law has forced out all these documents. It's made the DOJ finally show its work, and that's driving these fresh questions. Autopsy and 2 administrations did state Epstein took his own life, suicide. But other insiders disagree, several saying they don't think Epstein took his life, including his brother, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the pathologist I mentioned. And some of those claims can be suspect as his defenders or even conspirators, but that's their view. And a former Trump attorney who Epstein hired in August, the same month as everything I just showed you, said, I don't think he committed suicide. He was very engaged in fighting the case. He had basically just hired me to kill himself 9 days later. Wouldn't make sense. So let me take this all together tonight. We live in a time of agendas and conjecture and rush narratives. The truth is usually slower and more complex. Epstein's life was a criminal conspiracy, and his death became a mystery. First plagued by the Trump DOJ failures, then heightened by government secrecy across 2 administrations. This new transparency and evidence undercuts some of those past claims. It clearly shows the need for a fuller, investigative, independent accounting from Epstein's crimes to his time in custody. And as of this hour, it does not yet provide definitive proof for how his life ended.
Honey, Epstein is still out here roaming the streets somewhere, okay, doing the same low-down stuff he already has been doing. Okay, but so let's talk about his friend, Richard Branson. This is the man that founded Virgin Records in 1971 or 1972. Okay, so lately he's received some scrutiny because of his connections and his ties to Epstein. I do believe, if memory serves me correct, that he was in fact mentioned at least 700 times in the Epstein files. Now, I'm not saying this man did anything nefarious. I'm not saying he did anything nefarious, but I find it interesting that he was hanging out with Epstein. They were very good friends, according to those emails that I sifted through. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So anyway, he was mentioned quite a few times in those emails, but also I thought it was interesting that he has two islands of his own. One is called Mosquito Island, and the other is called Necker Island. Okay, like a necker. Okay, and actually here's a video of his islands. Hold on. They call it the Branson Beach Estate. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on, beloveds. Okay, here we go. Isn't it beautiful? I mean, it must be nice. Now, with that all being said, and so that's very nice islands. And like I said, he has two of them, but also annually he would have this events on his island where lots of people would show up, celebrities, all sorts of people. It was supposedly an event that he would have for charity called the Necker Cup, and he would have it or host it on Necker Island. Okay. And like I said, lots of celebrities and other people there. There's emails where he was inviting Epstein there. Epstein told, and this whole thing about the Necker Cup was about tennis. Okay, I guess it was for people that played tennis or whatever. And Epstein was invited there, and Epstein was telling him that he doesn't really follow tennis much. Okay, but they did talk about. See, they got the little black kids there. This is all nefarious. Now, like I said, I don't know what was going on at this man's island, but what I do know, hold on, let me pull this up. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. There was a woman that claims that he assaulted her. Okay, she said that he assaulted her on that island. She said he grabbed her and put his face in her bosom or something like that. Now, with that all being said, hold on. I'm trying to find the okay, so most of the incredible travel experiences up for auction at Sir Richard Branson's Necker Cup. Now I want you all to pay attention because this man is called Sir Richard Branson, which means that he's obviously been knighted, okay, by the royal family, likely Queen Elizabeth before her demise. Okay, so don't you all find it interesting that many of these people tied to Jeffrey Epstein, and again, I'm not saying this man did anything nefarious, but at the end of the day, I find it interesting that so many of these people that were tied to Epstein also had ties to the royal family and have been knighted. Okay, and let's not forget the nefarious Jimmy Savile, who was accused of doing things to at least about 400 children. Okay, and he also was knighted by the royal family. I find that all interesting. So now let's continue. They talk about him and Bill Gates. Billionaire philanthropists face scrutiny as names emerge from Epstein documents. Some of 3 million pages of redacted emails and communications have implicated some of the world's richest men and, by extension, the biggest philanthropists. Okay, so they talk about the Gates Foundation and Bill Gates. They talk about Howard Lutnick, and they also talk about Richard Branson, of the founder of the famed Virgin Group, was also implicated in newly released files mandated by U.S. federal law. Branson's philanthropy includes his Branson Family Foundation and the Virgin Foundation, also known as Virgin Unite. According to the UK Charity Commission, Virgin Unite reported a total income of approximately $21.49 million for the financial period ending December 31st of 2024. They go on to list all of the money that he basically made during a certain amount of time or whatever. Okay, anyway, here's my thing. Like I said, this man may not have done anything, but I think it's more than a coincidence that lots of these people have these ties to Epstein, and they have their own islands and all of that. Okay, very interesting. But hold on. Let's go to some other sick pictures that I found in the Epstein files. First, let's go to this. It says, "Hi, Rich. Jeffrey is asking if you can FedEx the painting he made of the Massacre of the Innocents to the ranch. It's the large 9x9 canvas that we had rolled out for him to see in the entryway where they are killing the babies." Y'all hear this? Now, who wants a painting of such? He wants to use it on the ranch and is hoping you could FedEx it to arrive by Wednesday. Thanks, Sarah. Absolutely egregious. Now, here you see a child in a sink, looks like a toddler in a sink titled Shrimp Cocktail. But if you read this over here, which was this email was sent June 17th of 2013, it says, "On my island in the Caribbean with an aquarium full of girls." Okay, that was from Epstein. Looks like that was from Epstein to Oliver Column. Actually, I can't tell who that's from because it says Evoye or whoever. Anyway, it says something about girls in an aquarium. Okay, then it says, as two are Russian. I guess some might refer to them as white sharks. It says the king of Saudi Arabia has a few white sharks in his at his Jeddah palace. I totally prefer yours. Sure, I would enjoy the view. And then that's when he says, as two are Russian, I guess some might refer to them as white sharks. And then it says, as long as you don't have any hammerhead ones, I love white sharks. No, some like shrimp. You throw away the head and keep the body. You throw away the head and keep the body. Now, you all do remember that I showed you all that very disgusting picture that looked like a child and the head was missing and it looked like they had roasted it like a turkey. Do y'all remember that? That was in the Epstein files. It's all so sick. Pensilola said, bona fide demons. Exactly. Absolutely. I don't know who this man is with Epstein. This picture right here is disgusting. As you can see, the 2 feet in the air, the ankles tied together, the knees bent back, and I covered that part up, honey. But this looks like, I don't know if that's real or cake they made or whatever, but it's still disgusting nonetheless, okay? Who wants a cake that looks like that? Just disgusting. And this right here is also disgusting. Hold on, where is it? Here it is right here. Look at the food on their plates. What is that they are eating? It looks gross. Now, there's a close-up of it. Now, I got this off of TikTok. It was in the files. What the hell is that? It looks so disgusting. And the person whoever posted said, is that a fetus? I don't know what it is, but it looks nasty. I don't know what. And they're all eating it. Okay, look at Mick Jagger wiping his mouth. Just gross. Bill Clinton. Okay, absolutely disgusting. What in the world is that? Okay, absolutely gross. What do y'all think? Zelot said, what sort of meat was that? Okay. Reggie said, looks like blanched organ meat. It is just so disgusting. Okay, Branson is on our list. Biden fired the AG investigating him. We have a full file on him, Virgin Mobile and Seagrams. All right. Well, thank you, beloved, for that information. And thank you for your insight to the topic. I appreciate you and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's continue. Now, I think this is the article where that lady says, hold on, uncovering Richard Branson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, I'm not going to read this whole thing. And I want you to pay attention to how these people that are accused of these nefarious things, such as Epstein, and others, how they are very much so a part of charitable work. Okay, they're out here, having charities and things like that, 501c3s, usually to hide some of their cash, in my opinion, but also just putting themselves out there as these philanthropists who want to spend money, who want to help others, as though they're such good people. And then that usually entails them being around people's children. Okay? Being around people's children. Because they come off as very good people. Now, I'm not saying Branson is not a very good person, but I don't think he is, because why the hell was he hanging out with Epstein? Okay, and he comes out after the fact and says the same old thing that they all say, that he never knew anything about his nefariousness and all of that, basically. So anyway, okay, like many business people in this day and age, Branson has already faced scrutiny over his treatment of women. I find that interesting. So in 2017, Joss Stone, backing singer Antonia Janae, accused Branson of actually assaulting her. Okay, now this happened on Necker Island, which is one of the islands he owns. Janae alleges that. She says, we were by the bar and he was saying bye to everyone. He came up to me and put his face in my breast. He went brrr and just walked away. It was surreal, totally out of the blue. Joss and I were like, what the hell was that? Everyone was wondering why I wasn't angry, because I'm usually a firebrand, but I was just too shocked. Now, a spokeswoman for Virgin Management denied this, saying everyone appeared to enjoy their time on the island. Richard has no recollection of this matter, and neither do his family and friends who were there with him on the island at the time. Now, there would never have been any intention to offend or make anyone feel uncomfortable. So that's what they claim. Now, any contact Richard and Joan Branson had with Epstein took place only on a few occasions more than 12 years ago, and it was limited to a group or business setting, such as a charity tennis event when Epstein offered a charity donation. The Bransons asked their team to carry out due diligence before accepting the donation. Now, which uncovered serious allegations. As a result of what the due diligence uncovered, Virgin Unite did not take the donation, and Richard and Joan decided not to meet or speak with Epstein again. Really? Because he's mentioned in the Epstein files like 758 times, if memory serves me correct. But let me continue. Now, had they had the full picture and information, there would have been no contact whatsoever. Richard believes that Epstein's actions were abhorrent and supports the right to justice for many of the victims. But yet he's had problems with women himself and been accused of stuff, okay? The spokesperson went on to provide us with the same explanation of Epstein and Branson's relationship that was previously shared with the Independent. Essentially, the basic story is that Epstein and Branson had only minimal contact. Lies, all lies. I saw the files and the emails. Okay, now please sit down. Why are they just lying? Okay, so anyway, they go on to say minimal contact, limited primarily to a few brief business meetings on Necker Island, none of which Branson actually invited Epstein to, and that Branson had no knowledge of the crimes that have since come to light. However, a careful review of the release files produced discrepancies between the emails themselves and the official statements the Virgin Group gave to the press. So why are you lying if you didn't do anything? Why are you lying? Because I believe he absolutely did some dirt. Okay, if he didn't do anything, there would be no need to lie. Okay, there would be no need to lie, right? Hold on, beloveds. I'm pulling up a couple of those emails. And some of these people talking about they didn't know what Epstein was doing are just liars too. Because there was also emails when people were talking behind Epstein's back. Okay, saying things. So y'all didn't know anything? Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. Just all these lies that these people just continue to tell. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Hold on. I literally just, okay, I was about to say, I literally just sent that to my email. Where did it go? Okay, now here's an invite. Let me share my screen. Okay, FYI, it looks like J.E., which is Jeffrey Epstein, okay, will take a heli trip to Necker Island on November the 14th for the Necker Cup. It is being suggested that J.E. arrive Necker at 10 a.m. and depart at 5 p.m. Just giving a heads up. Okay, so somebody seems to be warning someone that Epstein was going to be there. Now let's go to this one. And I don't know where this one, who sent this or where this came from. It was in the files, but this is page 9, if you notice. So that means there's 8 other pages that we don't have. I don't know what was on those 8 pages, but here's what the 9th page says. The talented Mr. Epstein. Lately, Jeffrey Epstein's high-ying style has been drawing oohs and ahs. The bachelor financier, which should be financier, lives in New York's largest private residence, claims to take only billionaires as clients and celebrities, including Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey on his Boeing 727. But pierces air of mystery and the picture changes. Vicky Ward explores Epstein's investment career, his ties to retail magnate Leslie Wexner, and his complicated past. Vanity Fair, March 2003. Bizarrely. Now, this same guest also attended a cocktail party thrown by Maxwell that Prince Andrew attended, which was filled, she says, with young Russian models. Some of the guests were horrified. Now, here's the thing. This man says that he wasn't really good friends with Epstein. They only met minimally, but there's a TikToker who did a whole video, and she says that she found emails where Richard Branson and Epstein were inviting Russian models to the island, and I believe it was to Branson's island. Okay. So, but they weren't friends. But anyway, that just made me remember that when they talk about the young Russian models in this document. Now, some of the guests were horrified, the woman says. Wonder why they were horrified. Please pay attention. She says he's reckless, says a former business associate, and he's gotten more so. Money does that to you. He's breaking the oath he made to himself that he would never do anything that would expose him in the media. Right now, in the wake of the publicity following his trip with Clinton, he must be in a very difficult place. Now, according to the SEC and other legal documents unearthed by Vanity Fair, Epstein may have good reason to keep his past cloaked in secrecy. His real mentor, it might seem, was not Leslie Wexner, but Stephen Jude Hoffenberg, 57, who for a few months before the SEC sued to freeze his assets in 1993, was trying to buy the New York Post. He is currently incarcerated in the Federal Medical Center in Devens, Massachusetts, serving a 20-year sentence for bilking investors out of more than $450 million in one of the largest Ponzi schemes in American history. All of these people are just crooks. I want you all to pay attention. These billionaires, did any of them get their money on the up and up, like from hard work and doing things legitimately? Because it seems like many of them are involved in such scandals, okay? From fraud to S trafficking and who knows what else. Everything in between. Now, when Epstein met Hoffenberg in London in the 1980s, the latter was the charismatic, audacious head of the Towers Financial Corporation. Okay, I'm going to skip past all of this. Okay, yeah, let's just move on because I don't want to be here all night. Right, Starseed Oracle said exactly, just criminals. Yes, okay. I know why the Bible says what it says about rich folk getting into heaven. Okay, please pay attention. And this is another email. I'm going to show this really quick and then we're going to move on. But this is another email. Hi, Jeffrey. 10% of each package goes to a 501c3. In addition, our final evening is 100% for charity. Okay, this is the guy, Sir Richard's Virgin Unite. Okay, this is his charity event. Another event he's inviting him to. It says play tennis with Rafa Nadal on Sir Richard Branson's private island. Okay. And they talking about they've raised over $1 million for worthy charities and all of that. So I'm just saying, I don't believe this man barely knew Jeffrey Epstein. I just don't believe it. I think they were very good friends, and there's no telling what they had going on at either of those two islands. Okay, now let's continue. But before we do, let's talk about Tom Alexandrovich. Remember, this is the man I told you all about earlier who works for the he is supposed to be like the cyber security specialist, okay, for BB's people. Now let's go to this report. Because remember, I told you all how he was arrested and then they just let him right up out of jail. They just let him right out of jail and he went right back to Israel. Okay, after trying to do something strange with somebody's child, or he thought whom he thought was a child, but it turned out to be a whole sting.
Accused of a sex crime to appear in her courtroom. 38-year-old Tom Alexandrovich was supposed to be arraigned in court this morning. A lawyer was there on his behalf, but the judge wanted Alexandrovich in person or to appear virtually. His attorneys telling 8 News Now he plans on appearing virtually in his next court appearance. The proceedings are now delayed a week.
Y'all think that man's going to show back up? That man is not going to show back up. That man already hightailed it back over to Israel, honey. Okay, I bet you he's not going to show up. Because why would he leave the country in the first place, knowing that you have a whole trial coming up? Okay, so here's what it says. Mr. Alexandrovich will appear by Zoom as permitted by the court, okay, at his next appearance. That's what his attorney said. Now, they go on to talk about how he was arrested. He was chatting online with a decoy who was posing as a 15-year-old girl about meeting for sexual contact. Okay, now one of the apps police accused Alexandrovich of using requires users to be above 18 years old, according to the website. Now, he posted $10,000 for bail shortly after his arrest. The process allows defendants to pay the fee, waive their right to a probable cause hearing, which the Justice Court oversees, and no judge was part of the standard bail process. So they say this is basically how it works. The Clark County DA says that, his office really didn't do anything wrong. Is that what they're going with? Let's go to that clip because they claim they didn't do anything wrong. This is standard procedure. But what's also standard procedure is that if somebody's from another country, then you would seize their passport. Okay, isn't that the procedure? That you would likely seize their passport?
Represent this office that we did something wrong when we did nothing wrong.
You had really no involvement.
No involvement.
Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson speaking with our 8 News Now investigators defending his office over misinformation involving the arrest of an Israeli official. That official arrested in a sex sting, released from jail after posting bail and never seeing a judge. But online critics, including U.S. Attorney Sigal Chattah, are blaming him and judges for that man's release. As we first reported, police arrested that Israeli official after they say he chatted with a decoy pretending to be a 15-year-old girl. That man later posted $10,000 bail and never saw a judge before his release. This is a standard practice here. Acting U.S. Attorney Sigal Chattah blaming Wolfson and a judge for that release, even though neither played a part. She posted this on X. A liberal district attorney and state court judge in Nevada failed to require an alleged child molester to surrender his passport, which allowed him to flee our country. Wolfson responding with this.
These assertions couldn't be farther from the truth. I deal with the facts, not political garbage. This behavior by our U.S. attorney is further evidence of her unfitness to serve.
President Trump first appointed Chattah as an interim U.S. attorney last spring. She's now acting in the position, which essentially allows her to lead federal prosecutions in our state without having to face a Senate confirmation. She did not return a request for comment regarding the story.
I bet you didn't, because that man's passport should have been snatched. Okay, his passport should have been snatched, period. Okay, now with that all been said, let's talk about this report about Queen Elizabeth and those missing children from 1964, because supposedly they found dead bodies of Native children. Okay, let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
A devastating discovery has been made in Canada. The remains of 215 children have been found buried at the site of a former boarding school for Indigenous students. The school in British Columbia was part of a nationwide scheme that took in First Nations children in an effort to assimilate them into Canadian society. Investigations have shown there was widespread abuse.
In mid-October of 1964, kissing cousins Elizabeth and Philip paid a royal visit to a Catholic residential school for Aboriginal children in Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada. William Coombs was 12 years old at the time of the royal visit. "I was an inmate at the Kamloops school when we were visited," said Coombs. "I remember it was strange because they came by themselves, no big fanfare or nothing. But I recognized them, and the school principal told us it was the Queen. And we all got given new clothes and good food for the first time in months the day before she arrived."
A devastating discovery has been made in Canada. The remains of 200.
Okay, so I find that all interesting. I find this all interesting. Now, let's go to this next video. I'm trying to pick up the pace because we're already an hour in. I'm not trying to be here for 2 hours, beloveds. Satanic rituals, sex abuse. U.S. top cop's daughter accuses him of torture. Courtney Tamagni shared how she survived sexual abuse by her father, Lenoya Police Chief Scott Tamagni, his neighbor Kevin Slevin, and a few others. Now, I want you all to listen because the stuff that she said about her father, to me, sounds very reminiscent of what the Hampstead twins were talking about their father doing to them. And of course, they were called liars, and their mother was accused of basically coaching them to say these things, and they were sent right back into the hands of their father by the courts because he's the one who had all of the money. Okay, and some of the judges were likely in on it, just my opinion. Okay, so hold on, let's get into it.
Sexual assault.
Hold on, let me put my overlay on here.
The child, satanic ritual abuse, and my father's molestation.
throughout my whole life. He is the chief of police, and I'm here today to share my story to help others and help end this epidemic of child abuse that's going on. I was born into a cult, and yeah, now I'm out, and here I am. So I was born into a cult, Satanic ritual abuse. It's a satanic cult which happens in the town of Riverdale. It's a town issue, and that's where it's local.
And is that Jersey?
It's in New Jersey.
Okay.
It's in Bergen County, New Jersey. It's right outside the city, but it's also very safe, put together, middle, upper white class, and a lot of money compared. Let me go again. There's a lot more money, and that's why this is happening, because it's an organized crime. So I'm a victim and a survivor of this organized crime that went on and is still going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it started when I was 3. We lived in our old house, 3 or 4. It's blurry. My father, he's the chief of police in Leonia. He started by sexually assaulting us, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So my first memories, we lived in our house in Tenafly. I was in the bedroom I shared with my sister at the time, and he came into our room while my mom was home. And my mom wasn't home, sorry. He came into the room while my mom was out of town for the night and just laid in bed and started touching me and doing a lot more. And my mother came back, she gave me a Smurf, and that's where I was like, oh, she's back. Thank gosh, I'm okay. And unfortunately, it just kept getting worse from there.
How many siblings did you have?
I have 2 sisters.
Okay. And was it happening to all 3 of you guys?
Yes, it happened to all 3 of us. Pretty similar, but also different. Everybody has different personalities, different.
Okay, so that's sad. That's awful. And her father is the chief of police. Okay, I wonder how that all turned out. That was only like a 1.5-minute clip. Okay, so now with that all been said, let's go to this video of people talking about these reptilians. Okay, I'm going to pull this up. Here we go.
I know who they are.
Well, who are they?
Well, the Alpha Draconis.
Yes.
Well, they're the top. They're the big. They're like dinosaurs. So we'll go to this. We'll go to this real quick. There was a split on Earth. Then you had Atlantis and you had Lemuria. And Lemuria, you had the reptilian form that we know as, or they know as, or we know as. And in Atlantis, you had the Syrian blonde blues, right?
The Syrian what?
Blonde blues.
Blonde blues. Blue-eyed.
Blonde-haired, Lyra.
Yeah.
Those are the original human beings. Okay, so there was 2 continents.
Yeah. Sumeria and Atlantis.
Way pre-Sumeria. I'm talking about just Lemuria, or Mu, and Atlantis. Just 2 continents on this planet. No bits and pieces, just 2 continents.
And this was when the planet was much smaller?
But
much denser. The gravity field was much bigger.
There was also a field around the outside that kept the water, kept the temperature at the same temperature at all time.
So the whole planet had one weather system at one.
All the time. All the time. It's kept the same, and it was a bubble that kept the same way, and so that was all good. But that particular Draconis system lost in a war. With not talking about Marduk or Mars, not talking about that, or the 100,000-year war, not talking about that. This is the gem, we're fighting for that. That particular Draconis group lost. They got pushed underground. They got fucked and they got lost and they got pushed underground.
Now, when you're saying underground, you're talking about the inner Earth.
Right.
Credible people, he says, have been telling me that sometimes at dusk, dawn, or during the night, they are seeing dozens of a particular species of creature flying in a group formation over the jungle. all describe the same thing that flies along above the jungle. It's a man-like creature with a long tail and a red glow on its back, and they hear a rolling hum from the group as it flies overhead. Many have told me of seeing hundreds of them at a time. They have also been seen at dawn, individually, randomly flying above the fog of the mountain valleys in the interior. They have been regularly spotted in large groups going out to sea and coming back to the coast of central South Guadalcanal. On occasion, he says they've been seen in the jungle and they are described as such. They look like strong Homo sapien men with greenish-brown scaly skin, a long tail like a crocodile, and some weird apparel they wear. They walk upright, he says. There was a Japanese sculptor who created a bronze statue at this war memorial. Now, there's a bit of a history of Japan in the region. Obviously, they were there during World War II. And Marius writes that it was strange that when the Allies came to the island, the Japanese had already retreated. And he tries to make the claim that this was out of the ordinary because normally they dug themselves in and they were ready for a fight to the last man. But for some reason on the Solomon Islands, the Japanese withdrew early.
So is he suggesting perhaps that something scared them away?
Well, think about it. You've got flying UFOs, you've got man-eating giant hairy humanoids, and now you've got floating squadrons of reptilians. You can just imagine.
That is a new one. I've never heard that before.
Some Japanese squadron. But this sculpture that was allegedly at this war memorial, he says it looks strange. It's a bronze statue. It's a half-human man with scales who is holding a ray gun-style object that is attached to the end of a tail. He says this futuristic Star Trek-type reptilian half-human has a determined look on his face, and he basically says he's holding the ray gun in one direction and pointing in the other. In terms of the folklore, if they're true, a little bit more intriguing. Like apparently the name for the Solomon Islander name for these huge giants is the Moo people. And then, of course, he links this to James Churchward and the island of Lemuria, the whole Moo hypothesis, this lost civilization. And he says, I almost forgot to tell you, he says the Makira, which is in the east of Guadalcanal, they have a small, super strong dwarf creature, which I forgot to mention. 2 occasions where there was front page stories of one of these reddish-haired, 4-foot-tall choa entities, which they're called, being paraded in the streets of some village.
Really?
He claims that there's a 1996 front page article that included a picture, which of course he doesn't have, like a chimpanzee at the circus. They put him like a little pair of shorts on him and like put a little hat on him and paraded him around the streets of the village, and everyone came out.
Was probably terrified.
And was cheering and threw him some food.
Could it be an orangutan? Could there just be a mistaken, identity? Maybe somehow an orangutan was on the island?
I don't know if there's
not
apes on the island.
Apes on Solomon Islands.
Okay, new story, guys. So this happened back in 2012, 2013, maybe 2014, around that time period. So I had just got home from the Army, and my mom and I were in the car together. I'm not sure where we were going, but we approached the intersection. There was heavy traffic. I decided to do what regular people do, look around, look out the windows and everything. And I looked at my mom's passenger side window and I saw a guy sitting in a Honda, I want to say a Honda Pilot, but it was like a Honda SUV. At first the man's head was down. I think he was texting on his phone. But what caught my attention was the guy's skin was not glittering, but it was shimmering. It was a very sunny day outside. So I think the rays were like hitting his skin, but it was weird because the skin was shifting. I kept looking at him because I was like, this is weird. And when he looked up, at first I saw him as a side profile. I could see that his face was longer, like his mouth and nose was like longer out there. Not very long, but like you could tell it was sticking out. And when he turned his head, I saw more of his face, and he looked like a bearded lizard or like a thorny lizard. That's kind of what he looked like. But he had pink, white Caucasian skin. I tapped my mom and I was like, Mom, look at this. But at this point, she had already seen him, and she was like, Jamarcus, I see him. Just pray, just pray, just pray. My mom was very spiritual. We both have very strong discernment. So this is something that we talk about, you know, to this day, because it's something that we saw together. You know, I used to work at Netherworld Haunted House, and that's, if you don't know nothing about it, that's like one of the best haunted houses in the United States. So, you know, I'm used to prosthetic and special effects. You know, I did that in high school, so I knew all about that. So what I saw wasn't that. I know what prosthetics look like. I know what makeup looks like. That guy, it wasn't that what he had on. But yeah, so that's my story. Mom and I still talk about it to this day. I'm gonna see if she wants to come on and give her account of it as well.
Songwriter Sonny is so wrong. Talking about LOL, they probably saw a random drag queen. Sit down somewhere. Okay? Now, listen, this video right here, I removed the audio because it was music in the background, but this is a place known as Reptilian Island. Okay? So they have these statues, these huge statues of reptilians on this island. So just pay attention. Forgot I muted myself. Okay, so we're going to go to the last two clips, and we'll look at the rest of this tomorrow evening. Now, I'm going to put an overlay on this.
Where I am.
Okay, I don't know what that was all about. Did y'all see the way her eyes were blinking? And then she's hissing like a snake. Okay, let's go to this last story where this woman claims to have seen what she believes was a reptilian.
Listen up, y'all. There are beings that is walking this earth, and they are not human. I just came from Kroger's. I just got off of work. I went to go pick up a few items, y'all. I go to the bread aisle. Now, the bread aisle is super long. I'm at one end of the bread aisle. There's a guy that's about 3/4 of the way down in the bread aisle. He got a cart. I got a cart. He's looking at me. And you know how you can see out your peripheral that somebody's staring at you. He ain't just looking, but he's staring at me. I kind of look his way. He's still staring. I go ahead and I get my bread. I go back around the other way because I'm going to the international aisle to get some pasta and some other stuff. While I'm in the international aisle at one end, this guy comes around and he's at the top of the same aisle. I see him still looking at me. Now, mind you, there's a couple of things that I need to get out of that aisle. So the first part of the aisle, I grab what I need to grab and I go about midways down. He's at the other end. So he's staring at me still. So I kind of look at him and I go like, how you give somebody that type look? He's still staring. So I'm looking for what I'm looking for. I can't really find it because he's throwing me off because he keeps staring. Mind you, this man don't have nothing in his cart. He's not even turned to look at any food. He's looking directly at me. By this time, I'm like, you know what? I'm not on it. I'm about to just stare you down. So I turn to look at him. Y'all, when I tell you, this man stared at me, and his eyes turned black. Everything in his whole eyeball, not just the pupil, but the white part, turned completely black. He looked, it said black, and then he walked away. When I tell you I left that cart sitting in that aisle, I didn't even buy nothing from Kroger's. I left out and I came home. There is stuff, there is beings that is walking in this earth, and they at the store, they at whatever, they look like us and everything else, but they are not human.
Wow. Reggie said, that sounds like you and your friend Queen. You know, Reggie, I was thinking the same thing. You have a good memory. Okay, you have a good memory. She was just at that party that I was at last Saturday too. Actually, she's the one that threw the party for my best friend, who's her sister. But yeah, y'all remember that story where that man was following us around the grocery store looking real crazy, didn't have anything in his hand. And I'm telling my friend Melanie that this man is following us. She's like, girl, you're always paranoid. That man's not even thinking about us. And I said, yeah, he is. So anyway, it's exactly what he was doing. It was all crazy. Followed us till we got out of the store. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, I'm out of here. I hope you all enjoyed the show. I'll be back tomorrow night. First of all, I'll see you in the morning with more updates on the war and current news. But tomorrow, we'll talk more about the reptilians, and also, we're going to talk about some other strange things, okay? I'm not going to say just what, but we're going to talk about some strange things, all right? So with that all being said, and someone said that Erica Kirk was evil. Well, I have some information on Erica Kirk. Now, once in the chat, if y'all want me to talk about it tomorrow, on tomorrow evening, once in the chat, if y'all want, it's really just gossip. I mean, it's some stuff that's factual, but I'm just saying, once in the chat, if y'all want me to talk about the Erica Kirk stuff, oh my goodness, y'all are nosy. Okay, because I had this stuff for weeks. Okay, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let me write it down, and we'll finish talking about the reptilians. Okay, so Erica Kirk it is. Some very strange stuff too. Okay, so anyway, listen, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this evening. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, beloveds, peace.
With that gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece. This time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got